Hi, good morning. This is Stuart Leasor from Chiselbury. I am here with one of our new authors, Mhairi Blyth, all the way from Fife in Scotland, whose book, Ascent of a Woman, is coming out tomorrow. And I think it's a fantastic book. And I wanted to just have a little chat with Marie. And I was looking back. So, good morning, Marie.
Good morning, Stuart.
And I was looking back, and you contacted me on the 22nd of August, 2022. So it's quite a long gestation period, which one is somewhat of surprised about. One thinks these things are done quickly, but you sent me a sort of blind, pitch, and I was fascinated. So tell me a little bit about what made you want to write your book.
I think in the first instance, I thought my life had been a more eventful than perhaps I thought it might be. Um, and I felt like I had a story to tell. With going through multiple miscarriages. I think I had eight in total. And then infertility. Problems after that. I couldn't carry a pregnancy. And then I went into early menopause. Then my dad took ill. I had abuse running through my life from an early age when I got sent to boarding school. And I think for me, I felt like I wanted to tell the story to people. But also it was a very cathartic process. It helped me get past a lot of the issues that I talk about in the book.
I mean, I think that's what really came up to me was that, you'd been through so much, God, a lifetime's worth of problems or more, and yet seemed to have come out the other side. And I think what inspired me and why I was keen to do the book is I think it shows hope. There's a lot of these things that people don't talk about. I mean, people talk about menopause now. I mean, not as a man, but I mean, one reads more and more about it, which one didn't do. And I think, half the population, either men, don't really know much about it. But secondly, I think probably a lot of the women don't know about it until they go through it. And I think what you've shown is an amazing struggle through difficulties to come out the other side.
I think, yeah, it was. I always dreamed of being a mum when I was little. I think that's, a lot of little girls' dreams is to be a mummy to somebody, and then not being able to carry that out was a very emotional and
Yeah.
heartbreaking process, especially when, I recall buying pregnancy tests and just constantly testing and finding out I was pregnant and being ecstatic and then losing it a few weeks later. And it's, I feel that that's not talked about a lot. Um, like losing babies, losing multiple babies. And then at the age of, I think I was 28 when I went into full menopause. Um, I started taking drugs that put me into menopause because, as well as all that going on, I had severe endometriosis, which was the primary factor in me not being able to carry a baby to full term. So I had a bit of a fight on my hands to then say I've had enough emotionally, and I can't do this anymore. I was in a very, very dark place. Um, and then I had a fight with the doctors to say, look, just give me a full hysterectomy because I can't do this anymore. I can't put myself through this.
And people were resistant, thinking you were just too young, presumably, to go down that route.
Yeah, very. I mean, I got the sort of patter from them that you're too young, you might change your mind, you never know what's around the corner, you can't make a decision like this. And some of these people were men telling me this, which is slightly
Yeah.
sadly understandable. But some of these people were women of different ages, backgrounds, saying, that you can't make this decision for yourself. And I ended up, my mum said to me, you need to go and get this done. And she gave me some money to go and get it done privately because the NHS just, they weren't listening to me at
And
all.
do you think it's changed for the better now? I mean, a few years later, if you were back then, age 28 now, do you think you'd be more welcomely received or not?
I think it's changed in the fact that maybe menopause is being talked about more, as you said. I think people are more willing to come forward and say they have endometriosis, they have fertility struggles, they've had multiple miscarriages. But still, I think even though that doctors may be a little bit more better placed and educated
Hmm.
to listen to the patient now, I don't think there's the resources there to be able to carry out things that the person wants, basically. So I think some things it's more open. You can talk about things easier now, and people listen, but the resources still aren't there, I think.
Indeed, yeah, yeah. And just coming back to the book, I mean, have you felt you mentioned a bit about catharsis? Do you find having written the book has actually helped you sort of come to terms with some of these things and, and look to the rest of your life?
Definitely. It was a long process. I think that's what, 3 years we're going on for now.
Well, yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, so it was a long process.
And you presumably had started, the thoughts of it sometime beforehand. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I spent a lot of time away from home. I went abroad, and was completely isolated from the family to write a lot of it. Because I felt like I was reliving it as I was writing it. It was, I was having to deal with all the emotions being brought up again and again and again. So it was really difficult for me to be able to be at home. Um, my stepdaughter was pregnant at the time I was writing about my last miscarriage, and I was having a hard time coping with that.
I can imagine it must be terrible. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just so hard, so hard. Uh,
God.
but the time I spent away from home, it enabled me to be able to write about it, and it enabled me to be able to feel the things I needed to feel and not affect everybody else around me. So that was helpful. That was very helpful.
Well, it is amazing. I mean, I have to say, doing the process of the book with you, I've been amazed at your equanimity, your good humor. Maybe I haven't seen the other half of it, but certainly in our dealings, it's been a great pleasure to deal with you. And you are. I mean, I think you're a beacon of hope, and I hope that people will read this book, and I hope people will take courage from what you've done and actually to show there is a light at the end of the tunnel, or it may not be the tunnel you wanted to go down, but you are in it and you come out. And I think just talking to you today, I think you should be an amazing beacon of hope for women. And I think it's next week is International Women's Day. I've got another book coming out by another female author on that day, but I think it is a theme. I think it's something that you know all of us, men and women, should take heart from. Well, saddened what you've been through. I think by the fact that you show you can come out, you can ascend. Ascent of a woman. I think
Yeah.
the title you came up with. I think it is actually a real. It is a hopefully a real beacon of hope for others.
I hope so. I mean, it's heartbreaking to go through. And while I was going through all my personal struggles, my dad dropped down with a brain hemorrhage at work, age 58. And that was when I was 21. So I sort of
Yeah.
became a carer for my dad at the same time that all this was going on, to help my mum out. And he's still with us, thankfully. We've been keeping him going, but I mean, he wasn't around to be able to help me
Yeah,
through.
yeah, yeah.
I had to help him in a sense, and then obviously my mum was too concerned with my dad, um, to be sort of. I couldn't go to my mum about a lot of things. I had a broken marriage in there as well. It was all happening at
No,
once.
just nothing like that, you know. Just throw
Yeah,
that in.
but I think I took the attitude that if you don't laugh, you cry. So, I kind of, it's strange talking about laughing through these tragic moments, but sometimes you just have to look at life and be positive, focus on the future, and try and get over these things that are thrown at you at the
Yeah.
best way possible. Try and live your best life. And you never know what's round the corner. You never know. So I think that's my mantra now is to live in the moment because you don't know what's going to happen from one minute until the next and try and be happy while you're
I
doing
think
it.
that's I think that's a very good point to end our very short little chat because I do think, it is that the fact that there is, there is hope at the end, and I think you've really shown that. And so I really hope the book does gets the justice and gets the coverage that it deserves. And it's been a pleasure to work with you. And I've done and with one other thing, what are the plans? Any more books in the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean I've started on a couple of novels. I'd really like to write more about my time in Saudi, because that was a big part of my life growing up in Saudi Arabia. So I have got things in the offing. It just depends how quickly they come about and
Absolutely, absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, I've loved working with you. I thank you completely for taking me on and taking a chance on me. And I hope people read it as well because as well as getting an insight into sort of a nobody's life, because I mean that's nobody knows me sort of thing. I hope that I can provide some sort of inspiration or I don't know, guidance, a place to go for people, that are
No,
going.
exactly, exactly.
Definitely.
Well, Marie, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you very much. And we'll watch the sales.
Thank you, Stuart.